Here's how to install a hydraulic clutch in your 67 to 72 C10 pickup. We're in the process of replacing the old automatic transmission that we had in our Project 68 C10 here with a Tremec TKX manual. And we're to the part of the process here where we need to figure out the clutch linkage. And in our case, we're going to be using a hydraulic throwout bearing. So we are using this super slick Speedway Motors 67 to 72 Chevy C10 hydraulic clutch conversion kit. And what this is going to do is it's going to bolt onto the firewall on the studs that are already there on the pedal assembly, and then adapt this 3/4 bore master cylinder, which is included in the kit, so that we can actuate our throwout bearing. It comes with all the linkage and everything that we need to hook up to the pedal, and that's where we're going to start here, is we actually need to add the clutch pedal itself. Now, in preparation for doing this job, we pulled this complete pedal assembly off the shelf, and obviously comes with a brake pedal and the clutch pedal and this bracket. Now, on these trucks, this bracket is kind of buried up underneath the dash. Basically, this is where your dash rail bolts up, this is where your steering column goes through, and then these are the 4 studs that protrude through the firewall that your brake booster bolts up to. And it's kind of a wrestling match to get in and out. So what we think we can do here is just basically pull the clutch pedal off of here. And the way that these pedal assemblies are built, the tube where the brake pedal rides is hollow, and then the clutch shaft basically slides through the ID of it, and there are a couple little bushings in here. So this could be different. You know, the forums are full of all of the differences that happened across the run from 67 to 72. So I can't promise you that this is going to work on every 67 to 72 pedal assembly, but in our case, with the handful that we have sort of accumulated building this truck, it seems to be true. So that's the first thing we're going to do here, is pull this apart, transfer this pedal only to our pedal assembly. All right, so now we've got the clutch pedal off, and you can see this shaft that goes through the tube here. And so now we're going to put this part of the assembly aside, and hopefully we won't need it. Hopefully we'll be able to do everything using the pedal assembly that's already in the truck. All right, and there you have it. It was just that simple, and that was way easier than wrestling that whole pedal assembly out from under the dash. So now we're gonna move on and move to the other side and start working on the installation of our master cylinder before we hook it up to the pedal. All right, with our clutch pedal installed, it's time to move on to the plate that's going to bolt up our master cylinder. And this part of the process, you can do it by yourself, but it's much easier if you have somebody to be on the other side, either inside the truck while you're outside or vice versa. So Bree is here to help us.
So once you get these nuts off, then we're gonna pull this pin back, and then we'll be able to just pull the whole thing out?
I think if I pull this works forward, this is going to come away from the firewall, and you should be able to get in behind with the needle nose and pull the ears on that pin, and then we'll pull the pin, and then that'll stay and this will go.
Now that we've got all of that out of our way, we're going to put the plate over the studs from the pedal assembly and then mark the holes that need to be drilled for the master cylinder. Right now that we've got the holes marked, we kind of see how they're going to be in reference to this body line here. So we're going to just double check one more time on the other side of the firewall to make sure that we're not going to drill into anything that we don't want a hole in. All right, we want this hole to be tight so that it keeps water and things out of the truck. So the instructions say that it needs to be 1.45. We're gonna use an 1 3/8" hole saw to drill our hole, and then we'll take it the rest of the way with the file or die grinders. All right, now that we've marked where the push rod hits the clutch pedal, we're gonna pull the pedal arm off so that we can drill the hole. I suppose you could probably do it here under the dash with the pedal attached, but it's easy enough to pull it off that we're gonna take it off so we can do it the right way. Now that we've assembled everything to this point, we need to set up our hydraulic throwout bearing. And our throwout bearing wants somewhere between 50 and 100 thousandths clearance. So what we need to do is take some measurements and figure out how much we need to shim it out. And so we're gonna start here on the bell housing side and measure in to the fingers on the pressure plate. We're going to assemble now our remote bleeder, so we can't have the bleeder inside the bell housing. So we're going to run the bleeder line out, and then we're going to assemble the feed line that actually comes from the master cylinder. We're going to put that on, and then fish those into the bell housing, and then we'll be ready to put this all together. And we'll do the 90 where it comes out of the top of the master cylinder on the firewall. So, and then both of these will come out the hole in the side of the bell housing. And then the last thing we need to do here is replace this bolt in the 2 o'clock position with the stud so it'll keep the throwout bearing from rotating. And now, we have the throwout bearing inside the bell housing, and then we'll try to put it all together. I'm taking it the rest of the way by turning the bolts to draw it in. You gotta be really, really careful doing that. If you just crank down on those bolts, then you can break an ear off of the transmission or damage something. You know, if it's misaligned in there on the pilot bearing or whatever, you can cause damage. So what I'm doing is just very, very, very carefully and slowly kind of walking it in with the bolts and not really putting any torque to it at all. And if everything is aligned the way that it should be, that can kind of help get you the last, you know, half inch or so. Okay, Colton, go ahead and pump it up. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, do it again. I'm down to just fluid now. Okay, go ahead and push in the clutch. Oh yeah. All right, let it out. All right, good deal. But bleeding it was the last step. We now have a hydraulic clutch, and this kit really makes it that simple to do a hydraulic clutch in a C10.